in Unitate Fidei, Section 7. Thank you for liking and subscribing to the videos. You are helping this channel spread awareness of the interior life and the faithful tradition of the Church. The Nicene Creed does not formulate a philosophical theory. It professes faith in the God who redeemed us through Jesus Christ. It is about the living God who wants us to have life and to have it in abundance. John 10:10. For this reason, the Creed then continues with the words of the baptismal profession. The Son of God who, quote, for us men and for our salvation, came down from heaven and became man, suffered death, and rose again on the third day, ascended into heaven, and will come again to judge the living and the dead. It is thus clear that the Council's statements regarding faith in Christ are rooted in the history of salvation between God and his creatures. Saint Athanasius, who had participated in the Council as deacon to Bishop Alexander, and later succeeded him as Bishop of Alexandria in Egypt, repeatedly and effectively emphasized the soteriological dimension of the Nicene Creed. He wrote that the Son, who came down from heaven, quote, made us children of the Father and deified mankind by becoming himself man. Therefore, he was not man and then became God, but he was God and then became man, and that to deify us. This is only possible if the Son is truly God. No mortal being can, in fact, defeat death and save us. Only God can do so. He has freed us through his Son, made man, so that we might be free. Galatians 5:1. It is worth emphasizing the verb descendit in the Nicene Creed. He came down. St. Paul describes this movement in strong terms. Quote, Christ emptied himself, taking the form of a slave, being born in human likeness. Philippians 2:7. The prologue to the Gospel of St. John likewise states that, quote, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. The letter to the Hebrews also teaches us that we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who in every respect has been tested as we are, yet without sin. Hebrews 4:15. On the eve of his death, he humbled himself like a slave to wash the feet of his disciples. John 13:1-17. Only when he was able to put his fingers into the wound of the risen Lord's side did the Apostle Thomas confess, quote, my Lord and my God. John 20:28. It is precisely by virtue of his incarnation that we now encounter the Lord in our brothers and sisters in need. Quote, as you did it to one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it to me. Matthew 25:40. The Nicene Creed does not depict a distant, inaccessible, and immovable God who rests in himself, but a God who is close to us and accompanies us on our journey in the world, even in the darkest places on earth. His immensity is revealed when he makes himself small, laying aside his infinite majesty to become our neighbor in the little ones and in the poor. This revolutionizes pagan and philosophical conceptions of God. Another phrase from the Nicene Creed is also particularly revealing for us today. The biblical statement, became flesh, is clarified by adding the word man after incarnate. Nicaea thus distances itself from the false doctrine that the Logos took on only a body as an outer covering and not the human soul, which is endowed with intellect and free will. Instead, it seeks to affirm what the Council of Chalcedon in 451 would later explicitly declare. In Christ, God assumed and redeemed the whole human being, body and soul. St. Athanasius explains that the Son of God became man so that man might be deified. This enlightening understanding of divine revelation was prepared by St. Irenaeus of Leon and Origen, and then further developed with great richness in Eastern spirituality. Divinization in no way implies the self-deification of man. On the contrary, divinization protects us from the primordial temptation to want to be like God. Genesis 3:5. What Christ is by nature, we become by grace. Through the work of redemption, God not only restored our human dignity as his image, but the one who created us in a wondrous way has now made us partakers in his divine nature in an even more wondrous way. 2 Peter 1:4. Divinization, then, is true humanization, that is, becoming fully human. This is why human existence points beyond itself, seeks beyond itself, desires beyond itself, and is restless until it rests in God. Deus enim solus satiat. God alone satisfies man. Only God, in his infinity, can satisfy the infinite desire of the human heart. And for this reason, the Son of God chose to become our brother and Redeemer.